Hey, what's going on, guys? Roto Junkies back here. Got the M&M boys. Connor's got the night off. Just wanted to run through real quick, buy and sell with you guys on a couple of market trends we've been seeing. This isn't necessarily, waiver ads. We already did that for this week. What we're looking for is who you buying, who you selling, as far as the trade market, as far as keeping on your team, and possibly even dropping. Mike, who do you like this week?
This week I'm in love with Tom Brady from New England. I mean, you have Gronk coming back, you have Amendola coming back, playing almost all of his snaps, if not all of his snaps. A stud like Edelman sliding down to the third receiver, you got to appreciate things like this. You think they lost last week because of Tom Brady? That wasn't the case at all. They lost because of drop passes and of weather. Yes, exactly. So when you throw in two studs like these guys, Brady's now back on track for a top 10 quarterback this year. Get him as soon as you can.
You got to love it, especially if you figure in just half of Gronk's stats from last year, assuming he played 11 games, he played 5 games. I think that's a fair number. Tom Brady would be a top 8 fantasy quarterback right now, just about 1 point better than Matthew Stafford up to this point. Speaking of Stafford, if Calvin Johnson's out again, or if he's out for a decent amount of time, you're going to want to jump ship on him as soon as possible. Speaking of guys to jump ship on, definitely get rid of the likes of Matt Ryan with no weapons right now, and Colin Kaepernick, who's just going to the Georgia Tech offense. All he's doing, run, pound the ball into the throat of the defense. And his matchups for the next 3 weeks, he might have to put up a combined 300 yards to beat these guys. Then he's got the bye. Think about picking him up maybe, as we get closer to December. The playoffs are appearing, and he might need to do a couple things to get that number 1 spot in the NFC. Who are you liking at running back?
Running back, I'm loving Ray Rice. I mean, the Ravens just made a move to acquire a brand new lineman, former first-round pick. You can't go wrong with a guy like that. They obviously see something. Ray Rice, yes, he was injury-plagued, this, that, little nagging injuries, but I believe he's overcome that now, and he's back to his tough, grinding force again. I believe he's going to have Joe Flacco open up this passing game by establishing this run-first game.
Oh, you gotta love it. You gotta love Ray Rice, first-round pick, who's actually starting to show flashes of that, unlike somebody else you were talking about earlier.
Oh, you're talking about C.J. Spiller, was that it?
Yeah, that guy.
Well, listen, I mean, I love C.J. Spiller. I drafted him 3rd overall in one of my leagues. I was really high on him, but sadly enough, all Buffalo's turned into is a big headache in that backfield. You don't know who's going to go off, who's going to be bad, who's going to be injured, if they're both going to be injured. So for me personally, I sold Spiller as soon as I could. I'm done with that headache. Plus, you have Fred Jackson putting up better numbers week in and week out anyway. So how about you, Mike? What do you think about some running back?
I mean, my big thing with that is now you have a guy who's over 30 years old with a history of knee problems. Are you really going to rely on him as a must-start running back going forward?
No, I don't think you start him as a must-start. I believe if you have C.J. Spiller or if you need that depth at running back, I believe you pick up Fred Jackson because although he is a 30-year-old with, injury-prone history, I do believe he's one of the backups with the most upside behind Ben Tate, maybe even Kendall Hunter thrown in the mix.
Okay, so if you're sitting there with C.J. Spiller and a couple other confident backs, such as the guy we were talking about last week on waiver ads, Danny Woodhead, and let's say a guy that I love, like Frank Gore, then you can make a move on C.J. Spiller. Speaking of Frank Gore, though, running back to that San Francisco offense, which looks like something out of 1957, all they're doing is running the ball. Run. They're pounding it into the offensive line there. I got an offer for him in one of my leagues. I'm about to jump all over it. I honestly don't think they're going to go away from Frank Gore if they can avoid it. Who are you liking at wide receiver this week?
Wide receiver, I'm loving Alshon Jeffrey. Not just this week. I mean the rest of this season, man. Mm-hmm. You have Brandon Marshall. In my opinion, he's almost in a Roddy White situation. He's a little injury-plagued. You're really not too sure with him. He's a top back in the league, a top wide receiver. I'm sorry. But with this, I mean, Jay Cutler and him have been locked on these past 2 games. They've been on point. So there's no reason why you would want to turn away from that. Jump on Jeffrey as soon as you can. How about you, Mike? What do you think of the guys?
I agree. It worked for Martellus Bennett and it worked for Cutler. My big thing going forward with wide receiver has got to be the call we made on Sunday's show, last minute. You got to love it. Terrence Williams. Guy's absolutely killing it right now. I'm loving Terrence Williams. He looks like an absolute stud. He doesn't necessarily have that top end breakout speed that a lot of the guys from Baylor are talked about having, like Josh Gordon, but he has that big play ability. He has that shiftiness in space where he can hit maybe he can't hit the top end speed, but his acceleration is good enough where he can break away and then it becomes a track meet. I absolutely love him going forward as long as Miles Austin is sitting down. I don't know if there's enough targets there to feed 4 or 5 mouths, but I definitely like Terrence Williams as long as Austin is out. Make a play for him if you can. Another guy who I kind of like, kind of don't, Vincent Jackson. I'm looking at him. He's going up against the Eagles, who've allowed, I think, 11 receptions against number 1 wide receivers, over 100 yards, and a 3 out of 5 shot at scoring a touchdown. This is the week where you let him put up big numbers on your team and then sell him for whatever you can, 60, 70, 80 cents on the dollar. This is your last great week with Vincent Jackson. Mark it down. Going forward, who do you like at tight end?
Tight ends, I love Heath Miller. The Steelers have reestablished that run game. The Steelers are known for being a run-first offense, so play action is going to really be effective this year. Heath Miller and Big Ben have always had that chemistry, short yardage situations. Not to mention they both don't like the offensive coordinator, so I'm sure there's a little, behind the lines collusion going on there.
There you
but
go.
It is what it is. Who's going to hate that? I mean, Heath Miller's the only guy over 6 feet tall on the Steelers receiving corps. Now the Plaxico Burress is out for the season. Not to mention Ben's oldest, longest, most favorite red zone target. You gotta love a guy like that. Buy into Heath. The Steelers are going forward from here up.
You gotta love all the Steelers actually coming off that bye where Mike Tomlin was beating it into him. Well, they love to play for him, except for when you go 0-4 into a bye week and he's killing your vacation time.
This is true. Good point. Good point.
Okay, one last thing here. I wanted to talk about Garrett Graham. Now, this is a guy who's coming up. He's got 2 really, really, really bad matchups, and then it gets a lot easier after the bye. So maybe after that Week 8 bye, see if you can pick him up if he's been dropped in a league or two, and you can grab him up there, take him home to roost. He could be a good tight end for you going forward. If you have any questions about what we talked about here, you want to comment, you want to talk about it at all, you can hit us up on Facebook, like the Facebook page. Check us out on Twitter. I think you know about Instagram.
At Roto Junkies, and also our Twitter, at Roto Junkies. Check us out for all your daily and weekly advice. Got you covered on all bases.
All right, and check back with us both Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We should be putting up stuff on all those platforms to answer any of your fantasy questions for the week ahead. Guys, great luck coming up here.